So today we're going to cover lessons 1-4 and 1-5. We're going to learn how to translate words into symbols. It's going to be very important that you memorize this box and you understand what words mean addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Now, remember, when you are adding or multiplying two numbers, the order doesn't matter. So in this little caution box here, where it says to be careful when it's subtraction, the order matters. So when you see the phrase 5 less than x, it means x minus 5, not 5 minus x. However, when you see 5 more than x, it can go either way. You could either translate it as 5 plus x or x plus 5. So now we're going to try our first example. Can anyone tell me the answer to example 1, part A? 3 less than half of x. What would you write for that?
1/2 x minus 3.
Beautiful. Okay, so here the order matters. You would not translate it as 3 minus half x, even though you read the 3 first. Okay, what about part B? What would that answer be? Anybody have half the difference? What do you have to do for this one?
You have to do 1/2 parentheses x minus 3 close parentheses.
Beautiful. Okay. So when you see that word difference, that needs to tell you that you need to put the x and the 3 in a parentheses. Okay. Also the quotient. Okay. Remember, the order matters here. So whenever you're going to read the quotient of x and y, you can either write it as a fraction, x over y, or you can write it as x divided by y. So on the test, either would be acceptable for the division. Okay, same thing here when it says the difference between x and y, you'll write it as x minus y. And then if something else was happening to it, you may have to put it in parentheses like we just did in example B. Let's see what's next. Okay, so on the next one, here, they're telling us sometimes you may need to use formulas when you're translating. Okay, so the formula for area of a rectangle is length times width. The formula for perimeter, now technically when you're doing perimeter of a rectangle, you could also do L plus W plus W. This formula right here is going to be beneficial to you when you're translating word problems, because we're going to learn how to set it up as a two-step equation. And then the distance traveled formula is just the distance is equal to rate times time. And then cost of an item would be however many items you're buying and then the price per item. So I'll give you the formula for these because technically we're not doing geometry. So I'll give you the formula. I'm just going to expect you to be able to come up with how you would replace it into the equation. So for example 3, it says find the area and the perimeter of a rectangle when they're giving you a length of 10 and a width of W. So for this one, what would be the area of that rectangle? Now, I'm not asking you to find a number. I'm just asking you to show me the expression you would come up with. Area equals what? Yes?
10 W.
Perfect. Because the length was 10, and they told us the width represented was the variable W. So 10W is the area. What would be the formula for perimeter for this one? What would you replace here? So I'm going to do perimeter. I'll just put a P here. What was my length? How much?
10.
Okay, so 2 times 10. Everybody with me on that? Okay, and then I'm going to come over here, and then my width was W, so then I could put 2 times W. And again, let me, instead of putting an X here, I'm going to change this to a dot. Okay, and then at this point, they would expect us to be able to simplify as much as we could. What could we simplify here?
2 times 10.
And you get, and then I would just put plus 2W. And that would be how you would represent the perimeter. Okay, again, we don't know what W is. So this would be our simplified answer. Okay, next one. You and your friends are buying 2 pizzas at P dollars and 4 salads at S dollars. How much do you and your friends spend? So how would we go about setting up this question? Okay, Simone.
2P plus 4S.
Okay, so we're buying 2 pizzas and we're buying 4 salads. And that would give us our total cost. So notice here, the number times the price. And again, we don't know how much the pizzas cost or the salads. So this would be 2P plus 4S. And these, if they wanted units, we would say that they were dollars, because that's what it was labeled here as. Everybody good so far? All right, let's look at the next example. It says, you travel H plus 1/2 hours at 80 kilometers per hour. How far do you travel? So here, this is our time, and this is our rate. So whenever it's like miles per hour or kilometers per hour, that is going to be our rate. So what are we gonna replace here? Are we replacing the distance, the rate, or the time? Which things get replaced into the formula? What do I have?
80 replaces the rate.
Perfect.
H plus 1/2 replaces time.
Excellent. Now, notice that it's in a parentheses. When I replace it, I'm gonna put it into the formula with the parentheses. So this would be my distance, and I could leave it like this. And this would be, notice it's kilometers per hour. So after I distribute this, it would be km. So I could leave it like that. If they expect you to distribute it, you could. It would become 80H plus 40 km. But we can leave it with the parentheses, and that would be your simplified answer. Okay, let's do a few of these oral exercises. We'll skip around. Your homework tonight, and when you click on the assignment, it's going to be 2 through 36 even, and that's from the written exercises. But we're gonna do a few more examples here from the oral exercises. All right, so let's go back up here. And can someone tell me the answer to number 1? Okay, so whenever it says a number, that's going to be your variable. And you can choose whatever letter you want, and he chose X, and that's wonderful, so 8X. Let's try number 3 below that. 5 more than a number.
5 plus X.
Beautiful. And remember, the order on this doesn't matter. If you wanted to write X plus 5, but she translated it just like she read it. The 5 more than, the 5 is the number 5, more than is the plus sign, and then she chose X for her number. All right, what about number 5? A number decreased by 4.
X minus 4.
Okay, this one, remember, the order is gonna be important, and a number decreased by 4. So when it's decreased, you can just read it as you translate it. All right, what about number 7? 9 less than half a number. Okay.
1/2 X minus 9.
Beautiful. Okay, so when it's like this, it's sort of backwards. So you would do half of your number, which is half of your variable, and then take 9 away from it. All right, let's try working with some of these formulas here. It says to complete each statement with a variable expression. So here it says a rectangle has a width of 6 and a length of X. So again, remember your formula for area is L times W. So if my width is 6 and my length is X, what would be the area?
6X.
6X. Everybody see that? Okay, and we're going to get into the habit of putting the coefficient or the number in front of the letter. So see how she said 6x instead of x6? So always write the number in front of the letter. That'll be the proper form. Technically, x6 isn't wrong, but it's backwards. So always write the coefficient, which means the number in front of the letter. All right, let's try the next one. Okay, this time number 10 wants perimeter. So again, remember your perimeter formula is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So can someone tell me the equation or the expression for number 10? Okay, Kate.
2x plus 26.
Okay, so 2. Okay, so she simplified. So 2y, okay, and it's 2 times 13, so 2y plus 26. Beautiful. Now, another way that you might see perimeter is there's another way, and you could also add the length and the width. So L plus W times 2. But what she just did is perfect. 2y plus 26, because that's the formula I just told everybody to use. All right, let's try the next one. Let's try another one with, let's do a cost one. Let's try number 13. Oh, no, wait, let's do 12. Okay, can someone try and tell me, number 12, you buy M plus 5 bagels at 35 cents. Remember, cost is equal to the number of things you buy times the cost. So, or the price. So times price. You're going to multiply them. So number of items times the money. How would be the answer for number 12?
35m plus 35 times 5.
Okay, so we could show it like this, 35 times M plus 5, and he distributed 35M plus, and then 35 times 5, and we could actually multiply that out. Yes?
Would it be 0.35 because it's 35 cents?
Yes. So what we're going to do is you have to be able to interpret it as money, or you could just keep it as the 35 and then just write cents behind it. So if you wanted to leave it like this, after you do this, 35, and then you could multiply 35 times 5 to 175. So what you could do is put this in parentheses and write the word cents behind it. Or you can do like she said and turn that 35 into 0.35. Does that make sense? So as long as it's labeled and we know that these aren't dollars. Let's try a distance one. Let's try, let's see, do we have one? Let's try this one. So number 18, it says Mike jogs for half an hour at Y miles per hour. We want to know how many miles he's actually jogged. Now, notice the units on this one. See how it says miles per hour? So we need to turn this half an hour into part of an hour. Okay, so what would be, how could you represent half an hour in your formula? Or you could use, you could either do it as half, or what else could we do? What would be your expression here? Remember, the formula for distance is rate times time. So what would be my expression here? Remember, the rate is this. When you see miles per hour, that's my R, and here's my time. So what would be my expression here? Yes?
0.5 times y.
Okay? We can either do it as 0.5y, or we could also just write it as the fraction. Does that make sense? Either one. And that's going to give me my distance. So again, on all of these questions, we're not trying to solve anything. We're just trying to write the equation or the expression we would use to solve it. Is that making sense? All right, so again, your homework will be those 2 through 36 even. We're going to go on to 1-5. Okay, these were expressions and working with formulas. In 1-5, we're going to be now talking about equations. So basically the same thing, but now we're going to have an equal sign. Now I know our formulas had an equal sign, but the beginning part of it were just expressions. They didn't have an equal sign. So the difference between an expression and an equation, an expression would be something like 8 more than a number, okay, or 5 times a number. Okay, those are expressions. And that was 1-4. 1-5, these are equations, and they're going to have an equal sign. When you see the word is, that's where you're going to put your equal sign. Okay, there's going to be some other words that we're going to see that represent an equation. You might say the result or it leaves. Things like that also represent an equation. But let's go ahead and let's see. So right here, I've shown you that the word is going to be your equal sign. And then we're going to translate this as we read it. So for this one, it says twice the sum. What does the word twice mean to you?
Multiply by 2.
Multiply by 2. And then whenever you see the word that means the answer to a problem, that's a flag for me that says I'm putting it in parentheses. So twice the sum, so I'm going to be multiplying by 2. And then the sum of a number and 4. And then the word is the equal sign, and then 10. Okay, we're not solving these. Right now, all we're doing is translating. Okay, usually we can translate it in order, but again, notice the caution again. Okay, when we see the words less than, you may not be able to translate it in order as you read it. So, for example, let's look at this next one. When a number is multiplied by 4 and the result is decreased by 6, the final result is 10. Can someone translate this into an equation for me? So when a number is multiplied by 4, yes.
X times 4 minus 6 equals 10.
Okay, so I'm going to write it as 4x. So x times 4 is 4x. And then we're going to subtract 6. And then the final result is 10. So this time we could have translated it right in order. Okay, the only difference is we see when a number multiplied by 4, again, remember I'm going to put it as 4x, not x4. Let's try the next example. Here it says 3 less than the number x is 12. So notice the caution above. You've got to be careful on this order. What would be my equation?
X minus 3 equals 12.
Okay, x minus 3 equals 12. Beautiful. So again, remember when you see the words less than, we may not be able to translate it, and replace the word with the correct thing right away. So we had to do it backwards. Okay, the next one, now we're going to use our formulas again. Now, we only saw perimeter of a rectangle, but perimeter of any shape is you're just going to take all the sides and add them up. So what would be the equation that I would come up with for example 4? Vanessa, are you raising? Okay.
4 plus 4 plus x.
Okay, so she's saying 4 plus 4 plus x. And then what else do we have to put? equals 14. Now, the order of this does not matter, okay? You could have also written it as x plus 4 equals 14, or you could have put the x in the middle. It doesn't really matter when you're adding. Everybody good on that? Okay, it's not like the multiplication where I want to see the coefficient in front of the letter. So this would be the equation we would use to solve for that missing side. Okay, let's look at example 5. Here it says choose a variable to represent the number described by the words in the parentheses. It says write an equation that represents the given information. So here it says the distance traveled in 3 hours of driving was 240 kilometers. It wants us to find the hourly rate. So here again, we're going to do distance is equal to rate times time. And then we're going to label all our pieces here. Okay, here it wants the hourly rate. So that's going to be choosing my variable. I'm going to let R represent my hourly rate. And again, you could have chosen X. It doesn't really matter. So this is my hourly rate. And now I'm going to replace the rest. So here, if I know that distance is rate times time, I'm going to replace what I know. I know my time was 3 and my rate was R. And I know the distance was 240. Now again, I'm going to rearrange this. Right here, I just plugged it into how I wrote it. But I'm going to rearrange it and put the 3 in front. And this would be my answer. Bless you. Now, technically, if you give me this on the test, this is also correct. So either answer would be correct. But we're going to practice putting the number in front of the letter. All right, let's try some oral exercises. Let's try number 1. Can someone translate that sentence into an equation for me?
12 plus p equals 37.
Okay, 12 plus p equals 37. And she was able to translate right how she read it. Now, technically, if you put p plus 12, that's correct also. Okay, can someone tell me number 2? 8 is 5 less than twice the number r. Yes, right in front of me.
2r minus 5 equals 8.
Okay, she says 2r minus 5 equals 8. Now, if you translated it as you read, and if you gave me 8 is, and then put twice the number minus 5, this is okay also. Okay, but you couldn't put the 5 minus 2r. That would be wrong. Everybody with me on that? So both of those are excellent. You guys getting the hang of this?
Yes.
All right, so let's try a product one. Let's try number 6. Okay, here it says the product of 58 and the number n is 1. Now this time they're telling us what to use for our variable. What would be the equation for number 6?
58n equals 1.
Beautiful. 58n equals 1. Let's try division 1. Let's do number 7. It says the quotient of the number b and 4 is 8.
Teachers and students, just a reminder, we begin the day with period C today. Again, we begin the day with period C today. Thank you.
Okay, what would be the equation for number 7? What does the word quotient mean?
It means division, and b over 4 is 8.
Beautiful. Okay, she's writing it as a fraction, And that's how we're gonna see most of our division problems. You could have also written it, if this is a test question, b divided by 4 equals 8. But we're gonna be seeing most of our division problems, like she said, written as a fraction. Let's try one of these down here at the bottom. Let's find the perimeter of this rectangle. What would be my equation that I would use to find that perimeter? Or to find the missing side? What would be my equation? Ethan?
7 plus 7 plus x equals 18.
Beautiful. So 7 plus 7 plus x equals 18. And again, the order doesn't matter. If you'd rather do x plus 7 equals 18, that works also. Okay, so your homework from this section, so you actually have 2 sections of homework tonight. This one is 2 through 34 even.